Eldar flyer lists are one of the top armies in the meta right now, and they combine insane durability with firepower, and they can be absolutely terrifying to face. I've certainly fallen foul of them once or twice already. Now, I'm going to be talking to Tony Chu, who is from Team England, and he runs this sort of, this flyer list. He's going to be talking about what are the inherent weaknesses with this sort of list and how you can exploit them. We're going to be talking about what units you can add to your army to help you beat this sort of list. We're going to be talking about if you play missions, what secondary should you take if you play ITC, how you can play the mission against them, what your target priority should be. So this is going to be a really good video, guys. And remember, if you like what you're seeing here, remember to subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with our latest content. Welcome, guys. It's Andy here from D6 Evolution, along with Tony Chu.
Hi, guys. Nice to see you.
Now, this week is all about how to beat the Eldar flyer lists which are going around at the moment, which I have had personal experience of, and I can tell you they are absolutely horrible. Yeah, so I'm using my position as on the channel here to get you on to find out how on earth you beat a list like this.
Well, flyer lists they're funny, aren't they? They've popped up in the meta. I mean, I think I bear partial blame for this in that I took a flyer list with 9 to Caledonian in January and won that event. And then following that, Alex Harrison then went, that's a really good idea, and did even better and nearly topped the LVO with it. And I think the tweaks he made to it to make it a better all-comers kind of list for the meta, with adding scat bikes and keeping Vect and all the command points in there, really make that a really good list, but a fun list to play. It's really quick, it's really shooty, you don't get alpha struck very well. It's got a little bit of everything, so you can see why it's popped up on the 40k scene.
Yeah, no,
it's been very popular.
It's got all the elements, hasn't it, to do well. It's super killy, it's super durable.
Yeah.
It's a phenomenal list to play against. I really didn't have a battle plan to play against something like that, which was just mainly the reason for this video today. Really is, how do you play against something which is so extreme as that? So let's kick things off. Why do you think this has come around? I know you mentioned that Alex has been running the list, you've been running the list. Yeah. Do you think some of the changes to the recent FAQs brought some of this around?
I think that the price points of some of the units, for me, made the planes more appealing. It was little things like star cannons coming down in points and little changes, and suddenly Eldar have always had a booklet. There's always something that's really price efficient and really cost efficient.
Yes.
And just, I don't know, it seemed like after Chapter 2 2018, you were like, well, all these planes look really good and they all work really well. The only one you'd say is a bit overpriced, maybe still the Hemlock, but I say it's overpriced. You compare it to any of the Imperial flyers.
Yeah, it's still amazing.
I mean, my languishing collection of 5 Storm Ravens and 6 Storm Talons and Interceptors tells you, when you look at what they get for 170, 180 points or like 300 odd points, and you look at what the Eldar flyers put out, it's just silly.
Yeah, it is. And it's the fact they get to use it turn after turn after turn because they don't die.
Yeah, well, I think that's also the changes. The way that the meta's gone with the last set of FAQs and changes. I know that they tried to mitigate alpha strikes with, giving you bonuses to cover save if you go second, and changing the way you get CPs before the game and deep strike. But I just think that the onus was to come up with lists that are really, really durable. So things like Tyrannus Knights are really popular now. Hordes with loads of in-run saves or feel no pain or just sheer amount of bodies to drown you in. Grot Shield with Orcs, or modifiers to hit. Those are all options. I don't think everybody wants to play a Horde. I don't think everybody wants to play Knights. So I think the Eldar give you that kind of elite, fun, fast, killy list where you feel, I think a lot of games you kill a lot and you don't lose a lot from your army. And that's always a nice feeling to play with, I think, when you're playing Toy Soldiers.
Yeah. So let tell the listeners out here, what is your army? What did I come against?
So you got a version that I was helping to ref at Caledonian Mayhem, so I thought I'll bring this list, and I thought it would get tabled quite a lot because in ITC they don't use the new acceptable casualties rules, so you can be tabled if you lose all your ground units. So my ground units were a Farseer and 3 Fire Prisms. Now I did make the Fire Prisms as tanky as possible, so Crystal Targeting Matrix, Spirit Stones, Shuriken Cannons, and then 8 planes. So I went 3 Crimson Hunter Exarchs, 2 2 Hemlocks and 3 of the Forge World Nightwings, because they are ridiculously good for value for points. 138 points for 2 Bright Lances and 2 Shuriken Cannons.
Yeah,
they get the extra modifiers to hit and the turn twice, and they've got some funky rules about being able to turn and target something.
Yeah,
and gives you a bonus to hit.
It gives you a lot more mobility, doesn't it, actually? It meant you could play a lot more aggressively with your flyers against me. Because you didn't have to worry about, them crashing next turn.
The list that I used previously had, in place of the 3 Nightwings, had 3 Razor Wings, and then it gave me Vect. But I had to make the most of Vect, you need to take the troops, you need to take the second HQ choice, and those are nice things, but you don't really need them. The way I like to build the list is if it's going to be killy, I want it to be literally as efficient as possible. So Rangers are nice and they hold objectives really well, and -2 to hit Rangers, they're really annoying. But the choice of another plane or 3 units of Rangers, I'm greedy. I'd rather have the plane.
Yeah.
Because like in our game, as we were discussing just before the call, weren't we? If I go first, I've got to make every shot count, and I've got to kind of almost win the game first turn.
Yeah. So,
otherwise, it's so difficult.
Yeah. So if anyone doesn't know what's running, I was essentially running Deathwatch with 3 Caladius Grav Tanks, which if anyone hasn't met them yet, they are super killy as well. And they hit on 2s, they reroll 1s. So, I mean, against you, they're not bad anti-air. They'll probably kill a flyer and a half a turn, maybe 2.
Yeah.
Because one of them's going to be hitting on 5s because you're going to do lightning fast reflexes, and then the other 2 will be hitting on 4s against the one that you didn't do lightning fast reflexes on. So I should kill a flyer in a bit, maybe.
Well, this is it. And if you spike your damage, you could easily get through a few more flyers than that. So you get absolutely. Good damage.
Yeah.
And in my list, with so little ground presence, I mean, we were just talking about if you'd focused the fire prisms down, that game would have been really defensive for me, because then maybe holding on to that last unwounded fire prism and or a character against 3 squads of Deathwatch and all the deep structure shenanigans you've got is really difficult.
Yeah.
My list, lots of shots, but again, I've played Deathwatch games where everything bounces off them.
Yeah.
And that's not the ideal.
So what other versions of this list do you see around? So you're running the Nightwings, you're running 1 Hemlock, and you're running 3 of the Crimson Hunters, aren't you? Is there any other variations you see?
I think the most common one you'll see nowadays is a mixture of Eldar and Dark Eldar. So still usually 3 Razor Wings. Some people like to run 3 Ravagers and 2 Razor Wings and really get 720 points roughly of Dark Eldar, and that gives you a good portion of Spittlespan and Craft Worlds.
Yeah.
But I think that the latest bunch of FAQs that we kind of had just last month, I mean, I didn't have Dark Eldar in my list because of them. I think that might almost have knocked that off the top of the pile, maybe, because I think that the changes to Doom and Jinx are massive.
Oh, absolutely. It means those Razor Wings just are nowhere near as efficient as they were, aren't they? For an anti-tank presence, which they used to have, isn't it?
I mean, again, look at our game. If I could take 3 Razor Wings with 18 disintegrators and the missiles that get Doom and Jinx, then my anti-Death Watch is a lot better. If I can cast the Jinx off and fire all that firepower, I'll rattle right through. Now, it's just a lot harder, and your averages go right down. It makes a big difference.
Yeah. Because I think the one place you're really lacking in that is anti-horde, isn't it? Because you've got the anti-tank down to a T, but the anti-horde, you could,
It was horde in a pinch. So it's things like fire prisms, shuriken cannons, and the multiple fire mode from them. The extra shuriken cannons on the Nightwings. So literally, as many things I could get extra shots in as possible was the plan.
Yeah.
So, but it's not ideal. I mean, if you come up against, I suppose, certain horde lists, I don't want to see across the table from me. So
I guess that brings me on to the next point. What things are you scared of when you face across the table? What things do you feel are natural counters to this list?
The planes going first. That's
the mirror match.
I've only played that one where I've managed to seize or go first, so I'm like kind of fingers crossed. But I mean, I think Chaos really have the tools to beat the flyer list. Between holding the objectives, winning the scoring game, and then smite characters that can fly, hordes that you can give invuln saves and modifiers to hit, and possibly feel no pain. You stack all that up, it's really hard.
Yeah, so
and when you were relying on the Dark Eldar bit to do all the anti-infantry before, it makes it really, really difficult, I think.
Yeah. Is there anything else you're specifically scared of? Things like slam captains, things which can actually
Yeah.
interact with your list and get around the minuses to hit.
Anybody that can fly through and smash through multiple planes. So again, if you get your spacing right, one smash captain with the fight twice strat can declare on 2 planes, charge and kill both planes on average twice.
Yeah, absolutely. It's 9 inches.
Nobody wants to see that.
You've got to space your planes more than 9 inches apart.
But in games where you're trying to maybe block off a slam captain with planes, it's so difficult to do, or you just can't. You have to just take the hit sometimes and go, well, either that or there's a smash captain getting into my lines.
Yeah.
Really difficult in that respect.
Yeah. Or Librarian Dreadnaughts, they're also...
Oh, don't go on that one. Yeah, when I played Manny in the game before we played at Mayhem. Manny Chima, also Team England, and his Librarian Dreadnought went through 3 planes before it died to a lucky pulse laser on Overwatch.
I just think there's something really funny about a Librarian Dreadnought punching planes.
When we were saying our game, I like to imagine a little rainbow that he's just running up and then going smash, and then just running down again on the other side. It's just bad times.
Brilliant. I guess other things which would be a problem would be things like if Reapers were still in the meta. I know they've kind of fallen out of favour, but actually, this list couldn't have existed, say, 1 year ago, could it?
I think it would have been, again, super first-turn situational. I mean...
Because the Reapers have dropped down and they'd have killed you at that point. So it's really because Reapers have gone away that this is such a...
It's funny. I played the first time around the list. I played a guy that had 10 Dark Reapers in the list still, and that was the old Ynnari, so they could fire twice. I think Reapers are just squishy. I think that
I guess you can get around the wall they were hiding behind, isn't it?
They have, the fact that they can't drop down and fire and fade into a tank or behind the wall is massive now. So if you want to deep strike them, then they drop. You probably get to intercept them with forewarned is the stratagem.
Yeah.
So you kill a couple off, and even then you get maybe a turn, and then they're just dead. Because any good player will go, Dark Reapers, yes, thank you very much.
Yeah.
But I do feel, I don't know what you think about it, Ynnari, they suffer from the points increases from when they could fire twice and move twice and have all the shenanigans.
Yeah, it's that's the trouble with anything which was top tier for a while, is that it's been overly nerfed, and now they completely destroyed Ynnari to a certain extent. So they're in a bit of an odd place. I mean, other things I can think of which they're kind of like Reapers would be anything else which ignores negatives to hits. Things like your Mortan Knights, they could be quite a funny little thing.
I was going to say, there's been some cheeky knights that do it. I mean, anything that floats, actually, things like mass Gatling knights or things like that, armies where you can throw lots of medium strength firepower. I mean, that's why looters work really well.
Yeah, I was going to bring on we say things which are good at shooting orcs. It's bizarre, but they ignore the negatives, don't they? Like was it the relic shock attack gun or something? That'll go through a couple, won't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've played those games. It is dicey with the orcs.
Oh yeah,
they're hurt. I think again they're hurt by FAQs though, because not letting them keep the number of shots you roll the first time means that we used to be able to roll to see how many shots the looters get and keep it for the whole shooting phase, so fire twice. So you could use your one reroll and get your 45 shots or your 75 shots. Now you can't mob them up. Now you can't keep that reroll, so they're not CP efficient. Same with the shock attack gun.
So again, it's something which is really benefiting your list, isn't it? Because that was one of the natural sort of counters to come out of it, isn't it? Because you couldn't really interact so well with that list before, but actually now, it's nowhere near as effective, is it?
So before, I think I needed a Vect in the list. I needed to have Dark Eldar, and when we played, I had a list. It was just the Craft World because I felt I could chance it, and I did play an Orc player, but I went first, and he shot the wrong targets. I think tried to kill 2 planes. Got greedy, didn't quite go his way. Do you know what I mean? I just think it's not as good as it was. That's a shame as well, because I don't think it was breaking the meta or that it was the overpoweredly common Orc build. I think it was just a good unit within the Orc army.
It was good, but
yeah. There we go.
So I think other things I thought would cause you a problem, things like smite spam.
Yeah, so that's the aforementioned chaos list with all the characters behind. I think it's not just the spite spam, it's things like the Demon Princes can probably eat the Overwatch or can be clever about where they charge from.
Yeah, that rather angry Khorne Demon Prince.
Oh yeah, I mean the planes. The planes put out good quality firepower, but there's not a lot of it.
Yeah.
And you won't get through hordes of Zangors or plague bearers. I mean, you just don't want to see 90 plague bearers across the table.
No,
Especially
it's not
not
what the
with
list's designed for, is it?
no, even silly little things like the plague bearers get. I think they better get about an armor save from the tree because they've got a 6+ save, so they're on a 4+ armor save for just some of your missiles and shuriken cannons. I mean, it's awful. It's the last thing you want. It is hard, but I mean, get close, smite them, shoot them. Think Deathwatch, even units of Deathwatch, when you have to fly close to something, whether it's because of range or blocking, you'll put out weight of fire. You'll kill one, you'll kill a couple.
Yeah, because actually you lose some of that durability when you get in close, don't you? Because you're only -1 to hit as opposed to -2. So that's really good. And the other thing I thought could be quite funny against you would be, some of the new Slash rules where they can stop you falling out of combat.
Oh no, I've only seen these and read them, but I haven't played against them yet. So
because they can actually auto explode your flyers, can't they?
There is the nightmare. Somebody gets the epitome of a Slanesh in the middle of my planes, assaults me with loads of demon princes, and then goes, right, you're dead. That's a nightmare we never want to see happen. Gosh, that's a bad matchup getting even worse. I think at that point, I'm just like, well, just okay. I'm actually flying my planes into the ground.
Yeah,
it's just awful.
what an end.
Oh mate, awful times.
So, do you think, aside from these sort of potential counters which we've talked about out there, do you think the list runs into any does it have any natural weaknesses in itself? Does it have any areas of the game you think it doesn't perform as well?
So you don't score the ground objectives well, and I think at ITC scoring, you're never going to score control more, and you're probably never going to get the bonus for controlling objectives. So you've got to play the game where you control an objective.
Yes.
You kill more and kill something, and that has to be the game. Yeah. And then you have to pick secondaries that you'll score, because you have to plan to win the game by maxing those secondaries.
Yes, absolutely.
And I know that's common sense ITC, but I think with that list, when you're giving up one chance to do those, it's even more important.
No, I think that's a very good point. The other things I was thinking about is things like the terrain can make a big impact on your game, can't it? Things ITC can get enclosed ruins.
Well, that was another nightmare. Again, another nightmare. I thought, if we're playing closed ruins with that list, they've got no infantry. I've got no barrage. I've got no way to get through to get infantry into those. The biggest mistake I see when people play this plane list is that they get the planes too close, or they give themselves angles where you manage to get into that ruin, but next turn you're completely out of the fight, and you can't really afford that when you've only got 6 or 7 planes.
Because, like you say, you've got to get kill more each turn, haven't you?
Yeah, and a smart player will pick secondaries that let them hide in ruins, or just play the game and not have to commit things.
Just basically not interacting with you.
Yeah, and if you've got a unit like a Smash Captain or a Spite Spam, and you can plan to kill off a unit of Rangers or a unit of Scatter Bikes or something like that, because again, most plane lists will run with a min-sized battalion of Craftworld Eldar hiding in the ruins, and usually some Scatter Bikes, because the anti-infantry firepower of them is really, really good. But they're so squishy. So things like, all that squishy stuff is your focus to try and get a kill and to tie on kill more every turn.
So in a way, if they've got a few squishy things, you don't want to take it all down at once, do you?
Yeah, that was something I meant before. When I've played games, I've been too zealous and killed the squishy stuff. And I suppose that's a trap you can set for your opponent, that you leave your squishy stuff out, and if they burn through it too quick, they can deny themselves things like Reaper, or they can deny things in certain points for later in the game.
They may just not get kill at all for a couple of turns.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the thing. You've got to make sure at least you're going to get hold, as the opponent, you're going to get hold more.
Yeah.
Unless you're doing something wrong. But then the question is, can you get kill each turn?
Well, one of the closest games I played actually at the Mayhem event was against Venom Spam. Tom Higglebottom was running that, and he was getting his bonus every turn and controlling more and making it really hard to kill things with using lightning reflexes on certain Venoms to make it annoying.
Yeah.
And then spiking his saves on Shadow Fields and me rolling below average, and I was just getting there, and if I hadn't have finally started controlling an objective every turn from turn 4, I wouldn't have been able to take the lead.
Yeah.
So, those kind of armies, if you get in their face and then if you stop even just controlling an objective, that could be massive.
Yeah. So I think my next question is, how common do you think these lists are now?
I think that the ease of getting the list together means it's pretty common. And most people don't like the idea of picking up a 200 model army in the current pricing climate.
No.
Picking up 6 or 7 planes,
Yeah.
you've got some Eldar, it's not too bad. Most people have got a couple of planes or a couple of hemlocks.
They can borrow a few. Everyone's got a few, haven't they?
Yes, somebody knows a guy who's got a couple of planes, and then it just it doesn't seem like an expensive
from there,
army,
really, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. The amount of times people go to me, can I borrow a hemlock for this, or can I borrow a Crimson Hunter?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I think once you tried it, it is really fun. In the games where it works, you're zipping around the board, you're going, I'm going to remove that unit this turn, and you can put models where you want to, and you're largely immune to the return firepower.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's got, like we said before, it's got all the key components, isn't it? It's durable, it's killy, and it doesn't matter if you go second, does it?
No, and then that's massive for me. That's how I started writing on this, because I wanted something to play that you wouldn't get tabled first turn.
Yeah.
Gunline,
Yeah,
Castellans at the time.
Yeah. Because they always say, if you build a list, again, if I just went first, this would be amazing. It's like, no, stop there. Just stop there.
Well, that is the way the game's going. But whether or not the points are too high, whether or not we give too many options for people to pick big point games, like you can't take 4 knights at 1750, for example, or at least not with a CP farm behind it that you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas before we were looking at a Castellan and a couple of friends, that was the list, wasn't it? A Castellan, even with the Guard Brigade, is just too good, or was too good.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So I guess this list's going to be reasonably common. It's probably naturally going to gravitate towards the higher tables, isn't it? So if you want to get to the top, it's almost, I wouldn't say it's a gatekeeper list because it's that strong, isn't it? But and it's that skewed a list that I guess you have to build a part of your list to be able to counter something like that.
I think you said it before when you said it. The first time you played it, it was really extreme, and you were like, "Oh gosh, I don't know what to do." I think once you've played it, if you play it again, it's not so scary. It's not so daunting.
If you watch this video.
Did you watch it? Yes, if you watch this video.
To the end, right to the end.
It's terrible publicising, I'm very sorry. Yeah. But I think that's the trick of it. It looks scary, but those planes are paper thin, and the firepower is good. But if you know what it's good against, you can really protect your list in the right way. So you've got to go to the mission knowing how you're going to get points. I think that's the biggest thing, and then try and go first, try and kill something, and go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Now brings on to our next question. So if you've got a Imperium list, for example, do you think there's any good plug and play units where you could put in a little bit of something which would really give you the edge in these matches? Do you think there's any little detachments or things which you would say put into your list to try and counter it without trying to tell your whole list to have because obviously trying to beat such an extreme list, if you do that, you're going to have bad matchups against other things.
I mean, the things I'd suggest, I think people will be like, yeah, I could see that, and that's I suppose the obvious ones, the triple smash captains in a Supreme Command, or even as a Blood Angels battalion, just to give you the cheap command points with 3 units of scouts. I'm really a big fan of the assassins because things, you can't hide a warlock on a bike or a farseer in the open behind planes when there's a Vindica around. Yeah. I think they're really meta changing. And Vindicas went from it's a cool model but doesn't really see play to people are running 2 of them, running 3 of them. I mean, whether you play because they have utility in all the other games. Hordes, you can pick off support characters. Playing an Imperial Soup or a Chaos Soup, you can pick off the Smite, an Araman at the back, or taking out Primaris Psychers and things that are buffing a Bulgrin Star, for example. There's loads of utility from the Imperial Assassins. Things like the Eversaws that will go in and clear out the chaff units.
I love Eversaws.
Oh yeah, well this is it. I mean, a couple of Eversaws will happily remove that Guardian, couch unit, and they're a pain for the flyers to remove because between the character rule and being so small and able to hide in ruins and terrain, they're really frustrating. The feel no pain that you can give them for a command point. They are really, really difficult to remove for that list.
You took, was it 2 or 3 fire prisms and
Yeah.
three or 4 planes to shoot by
Yeah.
by Eversaw down.
Oh, this is it. So it took quite psychic powers that failed or did low wounds,
Yeah.
and I think you did the strategy, didn't you, in that phase as well?
Yeah.
They're so frustrating for that list because it wants the enemy to be in front of it, so it can just play each turn going, right, I've blocked off the back of the board, you're in front of me, I'll just keep shooting you. So if you can circumvent that, if you can find the gaps, that's a real play to exploit with them.
Yeah, it's good because you can screen to a certain extent, but when you're screening, you're not in the middle of the board because your guns aren't that long range, are they? I mean, some of them are, but
I mean, so on a normal Eldar flyer, so the Crimson Hunters or the Exarch, you've got a 48-inch range pulse laser, but it's only 2 shots at strength 8.
Yeah,
most of your guns are 36-inch.
So you can't be on the back edge, can you?
No. Yeah, and that's where you suffer against some targets like Deathwatch, like Knights, like Smite Spam, because you've got to engage at some point. You've got to, if you want to block them off. I mean, now that you can move through fly bases, you can still block. You have to just put, kind of measure, know the moving distances, and put yourself in that spot. But it's a lot harder.
Yeah, and I think trying to block off 1 or 2 models is actually very, very difficult for you, isn't it? Things like Gene Sealer Cult coming in, it's going to cause you a proper headache. I mean, you can do it for a turn or 2, like you said, but after a while, if you're not engaging the enemy, you're gonna, because your condition is you have to kill, and you have to kill a lot, don't you?
Yes, yeah. So I think, as we said there, for Imperial Soup, it's anything that lets you get behind lines or just smash through those planes.
Yes.
So I mean, it doesn't have to be Blood Angels captains, but things, even just crazy units like units of Vanguard veterans with storm shields or things like that, where they're annoying for me to remove, but when they get into a plane, they'll probably smash it in a round of combat. I mean, it's amazing. Like you said, the Librarian Dreadnought, things like that. Characters, I think, are best if you can get them. So, things like the Black Templar Smash Captains, Ultramarine Smash Captains with Gilliman, even just Watchmasters within Deathwatch, because you can have up to 4 or 5 effective Smash Captains running around the list. I don't want to play that on an ITC terrain where every ground floor of a ruin is completely blocked up and there's loads of ruins on tables. It's really difficult.
Because effectively, you could keep those units just spread out over the board as a way of zoning you out. Because you don't actually have to engage. You could just use it as a threat to actually deny you range or deny you, just coming into my side of the board.
Yeah, sadly, that is that's the threat of those units. But they are all purpose, aren't they? You can go into a Knights game and having multiple Smash Captains is going to be just the same kind of thing. You'll be able to push back and threaten. Playing a Horde, you'll be able to pick out characters that are overexposed or throw them into one unit and take out flank while supporting with guard or wrapping with the units. So there's loads of Imperial Soup and Chaos Soup, I think those are top of the meta, personally. And I think the Eldar, maybe the Knights are close behind. Don't know how you feel about that one, Andy, but that's, for me, that's how I see it.
Yeah, I think actually, the Imperium is top. Between that or Chaos, to be fair, the Chaos lists are horrible.
Chaos is getting there, isn't it? I think the new Codex for Space Marines, the new Vigilus formations, the Slanesh stuff that gives every little bit is just a little bit more tasty. So there's a few more options.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen enough Slanesh yet. I think there's some really crazy little combinations in there. I've not played against any of it yet, but I've seen some of the not being able to fall out of combat. It's huge, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean that's, I suppose, a bit like the playing list. There'll be an extreme list that'll top a big tournament somewhere because, again, it might be something that only works in certain matchups, but if you don't see the trick and the first time you play it, it catches you. That's it. Game's done.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of other factions out there, Tau, do they have any good counters or anything else? Do you think they can put in?
Tau are a funny one. I mean, so I have this debate within the England team setup when we talk about Tau for a team setup, velocity trackers or ATS. Yeah. Because a lot of, whether it's Riptides or Broadsides, from all comers play, which one's better? If you think that you're going to go to a tournament, there's going to be loads of Eldar planes, run the velocity trackers. That can make your game really close. But because on certain deployments. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of the nasty things in the game do have fly though.
Well, this is it. But then certain matchups, you're going to be crying out for ATS with the extra modifier, because that, for me, that bumps up the damage of Tau, like SMS and the missiles. Sure. The extra modifier, like things like Deathwatch, if they're in cover, if you haven't got the ATS, they're just standing in towing cover, going, "Here's my Terminator tanking on 2+ save." With the ATS, you're having to push the saves onto invuns, so it's little margins in different places. I don't know. I think though the playing list into Tau, if they've got velocity trackers and they're going first, and it's kind of any sort of deployment where they've got that range on your first turn, it can be really painful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What other factions do you think you can think of little things that could add some benefit playing against a list like this?
Gosh, I mean things like Tyranids, Zone Thrope, Psychic Powers, Necrons, where you've got the Doom Scythe stratagem.
Oh, yes.
That puts mortal wounds out. It's ways to negate modifiers to hit, ways to negate characters hiding behind. I think loads of armies have got the options. And we've mentioned the Orcs smashing through. I'm just trying to think. Go through Genestealer Occult, dropping in a big unit with flamers all over and just putting hits on support units, or putting characters in, or dropping the Kelemorph in to just put a load of pistols into a poor Warlock. All of these are sad times. Yeah. I suppose it's knowing when to commit those units so that you don't lose too much in return.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because sometimes I've seen people leave positions or leave spaces to throw loads of firepower in when it's not quality firepower. It's bolters or it's shooters, and it's not going to really do anything. You might chip a couple of wounds. In contrast to, say, 3 squads of Deathwatch with a Watchmaster in the middle, for example. That's probably a better deep strike if you can remove a plane or two and charge one with a Smash Captain in the subsequent assault phase.
Yeah. Okay, so I think the next thing is, so going through the phases here, so in deployment, have you got any tips?
When you are deploying against it, try and put yourself in a position where the army can't just fly at you and shoot you first turn straight up. That is terrain dependent, isn't it? I mean, but whether you're using reserve manipulation, or you're screening characters with chaff, or you're using stratagems to teleport things or to outflank things, don't put things on the line just because.
Yeah,
try and give yourself that chance. Try and make me fly to a place where you want me to smite me, to shoot me, to assault me. You've got to try and make me move my planes in a way that you want me to, rather than just giving me free reign.
Yeah, absolutely. So if I've got tanks behind cover and a Smash Captain there, so if you've got to come forwards to get the line on me, then you expose yourself, sort of thing.
And even that, tank commanders in cover is a great example. Put your tank commander in cover. Don't deploy it in the open. You're going to probably have line of sight to these models. They're massive. They're really hard to hide. Most tables, even with the biggest ruins, you're not going to get 3 Crimson Hunters and the Hemlocks and the Exarchs in a perfect line behind a ruin that you can't see them. So give yourself the bonuses, because those little saves or will help you in the long run.
Yeah. So next thing is, I guess, if you were going to play the mission against them, what ITC secondaries do you think work well against a list like this?
Now, that's the one I've seen people mess up on the most, actually. I think in terms of they pick, I'm going to kill these 3 units. If I've got units that are super flexible and flying all over the board, and I know you need to kill them for points, I'm not going to give you them very easily. So it's trying to pick things that you can score independently of me.
Yeah, so it's almost like the things which don't involve killing.
Yeah, so you're talking about things like engineers, recon, whether you're going to be putting yourself... You can do those things without me having to interact. So if you've got a great unit that's perfect to hide, scouts, for example, 5 scouts hiding on an objective in a ruin all game.
Yeah.
If you've got other big targets, I'm probably not going to kill those scouts.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they'll score you points. So anything that gives you that kind of freedom to just go, right, I'm earning those points. It lets you kind of play sacrificially with... I'm going to be focusing on killing something, so assume I kill, but see if you can get a kill. Make sure you're always controlling more.
Yeah. Because you're going to get hold more, kill more. So you're going to get hold, and you're going to get kill and kill more. So you'll get 3 points. If I can do the same with hold more, and kill something.
Yeah. And
then I just have to score more secondaries than you.
This is it. So it's picking the right ones. Again, people picking things where they had to kill. Trying to pick Headhunter if you've got a list like that and you've got Warlocks in cover or Autarchs in bikes hiding at the back, the relic that most people take the relic that lets your character dies on a 2+ they explode and they get mortal wounds and they survive. So it's hard to get those characters out. So don't pick Headhunter, don't pick things like that.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. And would you go first or second against this list if you didn't have a way of killing the flyers particularly?
Again, now that the changes to now you can't do prepared positions on flyers. If you've got the damage, go first.
Yeah, so obviously with my Custodians list, I would have gone first. But say if I didn't have a way of easily shooting your flyers, because they're actually incredibly resilient, like we've said, -2, -3 to hit. If you've got no way to really shoot them, is it better to just try and go second and know, right, I need to kill this many units, I need to hold? Because you've actually got a much more chance of holding and holding more if you go second, because you're not going to be able to shoot me off the objectives.
Yeah, I think that is list dependent. I was thinking of something where you've got if it's a shooting matchup, or you think you've got a fair chance of doing some damage in, because you almost want to, you have to know that you're going to sacrifice one unit shooting with a lightning reflex, and then your actual shooting phase will start. Yeah. So you get that out of the way, that formality.
Yes.
It's just if you can make enough of a dent, if there's something you think you can take. I agree with you that in ITC scoring especially, holding them all is really important. So go second if you can, as long as that alpha strike from the plane player isn't going to really hurt you. And again, I think that's list but terrain dependent as well.
It is, isn't it? It is.
Yeah.
What would be your target priority? Would you go particularly against flyers? If so, what sort of flyers? Would you go against your ground units?
No. So my target priority is literally which thing is most likely to remove a plane or damage a plane, and I'd go for that first.
Yeah.
So I will have looked at your list and gone down it and gone. So, for example, on your list, I went, right, okay, those Death Watch squads are really annoying. They're gonna be on objectives. They're gonna be in my face. But the first thing has to die is the Caladius grav tanks, because that's it. Those are the things.
That's the game, isn't it? That's I can't interact with you after that.
When I played an Orc list, I played. He had looters and he had the shock attack gun, but he also had 4 tractor cannons. So everything went into the tractor cannons. My rolling was a bit poor, but I had to put both hemlocks, half the firepower of the remaining planes, and then after that it was looters, and I just kept firing everything at the looters until they were low enough in numbers that I thought, right, don't have to worry about that. Yeah. Then from once you've removed those threat units, it's the ground control that's letting you push on me or getting you your bonuses or trying to win the control objectives in that respect. Because I can block some units, but anything that I can't block or is already extended, I'll try and focus them down. Because first turn with the plane list, you often find you don't get Doom, and you don't always get Jinx, because it's usually coming from a plane.
Yeah.
So on a 7, 50-50 cast, assuming there's no denies or stratagems. So I'll usually, later game, be looking at Dooms and Jinxes to help me just go, right, I'm definitely removing that unit this turn. Yeah. So that's the priority for me. First turn, the big hitters, the big threats. Then it's the things that are extended, and then hopefully it's mop up from that point. And I've taken out the big threats.
Yeah. So what do you think's the target priority against you? Would you go for your Crimson Hunters, or would you go for the planes?
I would go for Crimson Hunter Exarchs, because I think that they're the most versatile. They bring the most shots out of the planes. People always go for the Hemlocks, and I just think that the feel no pain and the damage mechanic on a flyer when it can move 40 inches when it advances, and it can always auto hit. And it smites. It just doesn't care if it's got 1 wound or 12. And the amount of time somebody leaves 1 or 2, and they're throwing more and more firepower, and I've lightning reflexed it, and I'll cast Fortune on it sometimes just to give it the extra pip of feel no pain. Don't shoot the Hemlocks. Shoot the ones without the extra layers of saves. Yeah. There's usually, let's be honest, most people run 3 Crimson Hunter Exarchs because they're so cost efficient.
Yes, they are.
Take those out first. They bring most shots. I mean, obviously, if you're running a Knight army or running a heavy tank army, the normal Crimson Hunters with bright lances, that might be a bigger target. But for most people, I think it's the flexibility and the reroll ones of the Exarchs. They're the best, most cost efficient of the planes.
Yeah. What about the people who are running Dark Eldar? I've always thought that's obviously the more squishy part of the list, isn't it? And actually the easiest to take.
Yeah, now there's one. If they're running triple Razor Wings, for example, you want to try and take those out as quick as possible, because that's usually the source of their Vect, if that's a big thing in your list. And one of them can be -2. but even at -1 with a 5+ invuln and 6+ fear no pain, they're annoying to remove, but they're better to remove if you've got the option. I've seen lots of players deep strike them because you can use the stratagem to put multiple planes in reserve. So sometimes you just reserve those 3 and go, right, shoot all my -2 stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. In a way, sometimes I almost accept that I'm not going to win the shooting game against Eldar flyers. And after the first couple of turns, when I know I'm getting whittled down, I tend to change tactic and going, actually, my Death Watch is coming in. What's going to kill the Death Watch? Not what's going to kill my tanks, because the tanks are going to die. Right, okay, if it's just going to be Crimson Hunter Exarchs against my Death Watch, I don't care at that point, because they're not going to do anything. So actually it's like shooting the things with lots of shots versus shooting the things... So you're thinking like 2 or 3 turns ahead. It's like, what's actually going to kill me in this game?
So it's the same target priority, isn't it? It's looking at your main units and going, what's the biggest threat to them when they could have come down? You can hide yours, you see, and yours are better in the late game and do the scoring. For the playing list, it's all nothing. The game is kill things. So if you can focus those big targets down, it's great. If you can take out the big hitters on the playing list that affect your list, it is massive. I mean, the average playing list has got 7 planes in. If you kill 3 or 4 of them, that's a lot of the list gone. That's a lot of the firepower removed from the table. Yeah,
all of a sudden you're not losing that game of attrition then, aren't you? But it's...
Oh yeah, I mean, if you take your Death Watch squads, if I've got 3 planes that have got 4 anti-tank guns each, I get on average from my 12 shots 8 hits, maybe 6 wounds, and you maybe take 2 or 3 dead Death Watch a turn.
Maybe.
over the whole game, without any
killing the squad, aren't you?
Yeah, that's it. So multiply that by, like you said, by factors of 10 or 20 when you've got Plague Bearers or Zangors or things like that, or just Guardsmen. That one Guardsman that passes his morale check or runs into a ruin. Things like that are a nightmare for playing lists.
Yeah, I think so. So movement phase, moving on. What things do you think are interesting in this? Because it's quite a finicky list, isn't it?
I get to do a lot of reffing, and I get to obviously play games as well. The amount of times I see people get away with, they put a plane that can't... So obviously the Eldar planes, if you don't know, they can make a 90-degree turn at the start of their move and another one at the end. But the Dark Eldar don't get that. The amount of times that people put the Dark Eldar plane somewhere and they're relying on a gap being there next turn and people don't see it or don't block it, you can make it really difficult for some of those planes. Or, as we discussed earlier, you can make them fly away for a turn. Things like a Hemlock, it's only got a 16-inch range on its guns. So can you block or position in a certain way that he's not going to be able to get you next turn, or he's only shooting the wrong targets?
Yeah, absolutely, because he's got to move. Is it minimum 20, isn't it, on those?
Minimum 20 on all the planes. Yeah. So little things like sometimes you're just getting right next to the model. I mean, it's easy to move through them nowadays with the base rules have changed, but you can get right close to the model and mean that once he's moved 20 away, the guns are out of range. Yeah,
no, absolutely. I think that's really good, actually. The other thing was when we're talking about move blocking, like I think specifically when the flyers get into get near a corner, that's their danger. Maybe they've got one place to go, and actually move guardsmen or anything like that. Anything where you can just line them up. You find out where the back of the base is, you measure 20 from that, and then you just line them up, don't you?
Yeah, this is it. So when you're playing the Dark Eldar stuff, especially, you've got to be aware if they make a mistake or they forget you've got that unit of scouts and you go, oh, there's your 20 that you were planning to land in. You didn't think I could move anything there, or you jump something. I mean, I've had that. I played Simon Pridders before, and he killed a bomber because he jumped a unit of grots over and literally strung them out over kind of like a 30-inch line. I was like, yeah, you really have blocked that entire quarter of the board.
And I think it's really important when you do it to actually agree with your opponent. These are your movement arcs, because I think some people with their flyers, that it's not exactly 90 degrees they move them sometimes.
Do you know what? I happily put the plane back. I think people have issues sometimes with planes, like you say, with angles. I'm not talking
about you at all.
Oh no! But I've had that in games where people go, I'm not happy with that angle. So I usually go, right, I'll put the plane back. That's where I think it was played. Are you really happy? Because it's not usually the distance, is it? It's the angle. Yeah. And I think you have to just, the bases have got a big cross on them. It shouldn't, assuming you've glued your stand on the flying base properly, most of the time you don't need to measure a crazy angle or have the angle funny. And just watch it or agree. I mean, sometimes I'll take the plane off so we can put the base and measure it.
Yeah.
Ask your opponent to do that. The flyers are easily removable. I mean, I suppose technically the flyers are just there for tokens. We're actually just playing with 6 or 8 flying bases, really,
Yeah.
for the purposes of moving and measuring. So,
But I think that's huge, though. I mean, it's not just the Dark Eldar flyers. Actually, your opponent can get sloppy with the Crimson Hunters.
yeah.
And part of 40k is just picking up on people's mistakes, isn't it? You go,
Yeah.
you're too focused on killing something, you don't actually realise you've messed it up, because at the start of the turn they still can only move 90, can't they?
Oh, but see, that extra 90...
It should get you out of any problems, but it doesn't mean
should.
it will.
Oh, but this is where you mess with the ranges, or you catch people out. Or, I mean, I watched a great one of Jordan Clifford was playing somebody else's planes, and Jordan managed to get his planes to the point where he was always flying behind the other guy's planes. So we, do you know what I mean? So he was like, "I'm going to hide from these hemlocks by literally being behind them for the whole game." and even if it's a turn or two of doing that until the guy split them up, really clever. Just you've got to watch for little gaps like that, because it can give you a real advantage. So. Yeah, if they make a mistake with it, really punish them. That might be the points where you sacrifice a unit that you know is going to get shot or is going to get smited out, but it could really mess up their flying for 2 or 3 turns.
Yeah, because I imagine you've actually got to think quite far ahead with particularly the Dark Eldar flyers. You've got to think a couple of turns ahead where you're actually going with them. Otherwise, you'll be somewhere stupid.
Well, I mean, pro tip, if you want to be better with the planes, is often I'll try and in my head pair them up so that I'll have a plane that... Because you usually your turns are very quick with the Eldar list, so you can do things like when you're playing a Horde list, have a Crimson Hunter that you know is paired with a Razorwing, so that when you fly the Crimson Hunter out of there, there's a gap where it was that the Razorwing can fly into. You can do that with reasonable efficiency for 2 to 3 turns at the beginning, and then after that, if you haven't killed the spaces out, it's really hard. Yeah. Horde lists that fill up on a Hammer and Anvil, for example, and push at you make it really difficult.
Yeah, and I think it's just some people even take a flying base with them and just make sure that there's no gaps big enough for a flying base to go in.
Yeah, if you're especially paranoid, get your flying base out now and make sure that you've got it.
Take one, dust off one of your Fire Raptors bases or whatever else sitting in the cabinet.
That dusty Riptide sitting at the back there.
Yeah.
Mauler Fiends, and Mauler Fiends are the right base. They don't see much table time these days. There you go.
Oh, fantastic! Any thoughts for the shooting phase?
I think we've probably mentioned that in the targeted priority phases. You've just got to know. You've got to know which one you're shooting at. That's the first thing. The amount of times people go, right, so which ones are which? What's the difference? There's only 3 types of planes really. For if they've got the Dark Eldar, just know which ones are which and which ones are going to damage your list the most. Even if that is a cursory glance over an Eldar Codex next time you're down your for any local games store, just so you know.
Yeah.
Or ideally get a practice game against it, even if you get spanked, just to see how it does. Because I think with practice you could beat these lists. Yeah,
no, absolutely. Because they are. Yeah, it's just spamming the same unit, isn't it? So you can beat it. And I think all these lists are scary till you play them once or twice. And then it's just another killing list, isn't it?
It is, and don't be afraid to not shoot the planes, but to kill off the chaff at the back, or to take the opportunity to remove rangers, or because rangers at -2 to hit are annoying to kill. But if you throw 96 of mortars at them, there's a good chance you'll kill a couple over the course of the game. Don't fire those at planes. I've seen that's it. I've seen games like that where people are like, well, I'll throw the mortars into these razor wings. All right. If you
see what happens.
If you get Cager and you get +1 to wound and you get rerolls from the mortars, then you might think that's best and most cost efficient. For me, remove the scoring, remove the units that are getting me my controls at the back of the board or just being annoying. So
it's all points at the end of the day, isn't it? You don't need to. Yeah. You've got to kill enough to get your points, but beyond that, it's all just play the mission.
Yeah, it is.
Identify what your win condition is and just go from there.
Yeah.
So, like you said, the only other thing with shooting phase is baiting out that lightning reflex early, isn't it?
I think, know that you're going to lose the... Sometimes I saw people do that. They fire like the Castellan. They go, right, the Castellan with all the strats. And I go, okay, well, here comes a lightning reflex. Yeah. And they'd misposition other units based on that.
In a way, you could kind of play chicken with your opponent. If you've got something super killy, which is going to kill a flyer, then just don't shoot it till the end. Just go, I'm going to shoot the rest of my army. So sometimes it's not the first thing you're going to lightning reflex. You've probably got something in mind. Like, if he targets me with that stupid knight, I'm going to lightning reflex.
Yep. So I played a guy. I went to Belgian Team Championships this year. Just a really good team event in Ostend, and that was 6-man teams. I played a guard guy in the last game, and he had just wyverns and basilisks. And the first turn, he fired the basilisks, and he fired the basilisk first, reflexed on a Dark Eldar plane, gave him -2. So he was like, right, okay.
Not doing that again, yeah.
No. So second turn, he fired the basilisk last. And he's like, that was better, wasn't it? I was like, yes. It was really annoying. Because then, when he's firing wyverns at a Dark Eldar plane, you're like, well, I'm probably just going to have to chance it. Because I don't want him to put the basilisks on the next Dark Eldar plane, for example, or on one of my support units, on a fire prism, on a unit of Rangers. So.
And on all those 5s he's rolling, you're like, they shouldn't be bloody hits.
This is it, yeah. So you teasing that lightning reflexes out or playing chicken with it is probably the best way around, because that's really their only defense now.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the way around it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, measure up with your big one, your big killer unit to a few different things. Go, I can kill this one or this one.
Play the mind games.
Good. And I think going on to the combat phase, and I think we've alluded to a few things already, haven't we? I think the spacing of flyers, if you've got smash captains, is really important, isn't it?
I think you might, if you really are dead set on winning a big tournament and you want to get to the top tables, and that's a focus for your list, and you bring in soup, measure it, have a little, get your Morlafines out, just have a little practice and measure, because you've got to, it's one thing knowing that works, it's another thing putting the model in the right place to do it.
Yeah.
And you see people do things like base a model when they shouldn't do, or not move in the right way, and you don't want to do that and make that mistake.
No,
because I think once you've done it, it's hard to take those back, isn't it? If your opponent's feeling nice, they might let you, but
not if you're going to double kill flyers. It'd be like, if you're going to do all that, if you've got a smash captain with like 7 or 8 attacks, they'd be like, no.
And I've seen it done. I know it can be done. You might need to even talk your opponent through it sometimes, just to make sure that they're happy that's what you're going to do. I think sometimes trying to catch somebody out with it in your own assault phase is probably not worth it. They've got no plan that they can change. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of talk it through to make sure that it's clear. Because I have seen arguments or had to ref arguments where people have gone, well, wasn't sure about the measuring, and that just measure it out with your opponent.
Measure it before you even charge. Just say. So the way it works, just for anyone who doesn't know, so you've got essentially, if you've got 2 flyers 9 inches apart, if you charge into the first one and keep an inch away, and your base is just over an inch as well, so you kill the first flyer, you consolidate 3 inches towards the next flyer. And it's very important at this point that is the closest model, otherwise the whole thing falls apart, because you've got to consolidate towards the closest model. So then at that point you're at 5 inches. Now you use the fight again stratagem, so you move forwards another 3 inches, so you're at 8 inches, which puts you an inch away from the next flyer.
Yeah.
Well, then it's all fair game, and then you get your hammer out and you start killing more flyers.
And in the dream world, this is a smash captain with a Blood Angel smash captain with the Ignore Overwatch relic, who's then charged in, taken no hits, killed 2 planes.
Yeah,
got extra attacks.
You've got to do it one of 2 ways. Either if you're charging 2 planes, it's a little bit risky. So you either have the wings which let you ignore Overwatch, or you charge from behind a ruin. I don't think you can declare 2 planes and expect you're going to get lucky at some point, aren't you, against those?
Well,
it depends. If you've got to do it, you've got to do it. But
assuming they've got, because things that can mess that up, things like lightning reflex in the combat phase, that can be frustrating, and that can just cause the extra couple of hammer hits to miss. People sometimes forget that you can do that. I think that you can't do lightning reflexes unless it's shooting. But that's the kind of risk that can win you a game against those lists. Going from 7 to 5 planes with a big dent in firepower if you get the right ones.
And if you're good enough to consolidate into like a little enclosed ruin afterwards, you get extra points.
Oh, you've lived the dream. You've made a charge out of a ruin, killed 2 planes, and then got back into a ruin.
I think your opponent may actually have to help you by lining his flyers up perfectly for that.
Oh, that's
the dream.
That is literally the dream of the Blood Angels player. That's a nightmare. That's going to happen to me now. Thanks for that, Andy.
Good. So, I think that's pretty much everything I can think of. You any final thoughts, Tony?
Just as random. I mean, don't be daunted by it. It looks really scary. It's a lot of firepower. 2 seconds. Yeah, sure. Sorry. Come on. Sorry, my dogs are causing havoc in the background here.
Ah.
So it's. I think it's don't be daunted by the list. I think you've really got to focus at the start. What's your aim? What's your mission going to be? How are you going to get your points? I mean, no plan survives contact with the enemy, does it? That's the joy of the game we play. It is a dice game, but that could go both ways. Don't throw things away needlessly. Try not to throw your models or leave gaps for characters to be lost or key pieces to be thrown away. And that's it, really. See how you do. Hopefully, in the ideal world, they all fly their planes in 9 inches apart and multiple smash captains appear from your lines and remove
out
them.
of ruins and dreadnoughts jump over their heads. And it's going to be... Yeah, it's going to be an amazing thing. But I think the key thing here is just get your mates to sub a bunch of units in as flyers and just play a couple of practice games. You don't actually have to find someone with a list. Just go, look, can you just use a bunch of stuff as flyers for a game?
Oh, I would say if you're going to a big GT and you like we were saying, you're aspiring for a podium placing, and that you're going to probably play somebody who's got that list or 3, 4, 5 flyers in. So, like you said, maybe you take it in turns and you play the list, you talk it through, and you just kind of play that kind of practice game. That's the kind of game that I'll run usually with friends when I'm trying to get events practice in, just to kind of stress test my list sometimes, just to see what it does, what the averages are. Have I misplayed that? Should I put something here? And that can be really useful.
Yeah, I think so. And it's the Eldar player can have a bad turn as well. They may not kill anything.
Oh, well,
you never know.
So I will say, if you've got the ability to stop a power with a stratagem or with a deny, stop Doom. Of all the power, I mean, Jinx is obviously big, and everybody knows -1 to your saves is massive. But for me, Doom is the biggest power in the arsenal.
Yeah, because it's consistency, isn't it? At that point, you're moving a lot of probability out of the game, aren't you? A lot of chance.
Massively, and we mentioned earlier, it's a big hit to the Dark Eldar side that Doom and Jinx are gone, but mostly Doom over Jinx. Jinx is nice, but Doom's essential. That's why it's on a Farsi with a reroll, with the stratagem to +1 to cast usually. And even then, that you can play the range game. You can make it so it's difficult. You've got stratagems from all sorts. I mean, whether it's Black Templars, Sisters of Battle, Custodes, what else is there? Admech. There's loads of ways to stop those key buffs. So if you can stop that, that can really throw a spanner in the works for the Eldar player.
Yeah. So there you go, guys. These are the top tips against against flyer spam. Thanks a lot for coming on, buddy. That was absolutely awesome.
No, thanks for having me. That's great, guys.
Yeah. Remember, guys, if you like what you're seeing here, remember to subscribe to the channel. We do regular tactics videos going over how you beat some of the top lists in the game.